Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Burkina Faso is currently navigating a truly pivotal and defining stage in its long history, a period notably defined by the ongoing war against terrorism, the firm assertion of its political and economic independence, the fundamental rebuilding of the state, and crucial action for self-reliant development. Marking exactly 1 year following the official proclamation of the Popular Progressive Revolution, Captain Ibrahim Traore, currently serving as the President of Faso and the President of the AES Confederation, is now granting an extensive and wide-ranging interview to representatives of both the national and the international press corps. The implementation of the RPP's structural projects, the guidance of the destiny of the peoples of the AES, and Captain Ibrahim Traore's perspective on Africa and the world are the major topics that will punctuate this interview. Good evening, Mr. President. Thank you very much for welcoming us here at the Presidential Palace in Kuluba, Ouagadougou for this interview, which once again clearly demonstrates the great interest you show in the press, in communication, and of course in the concerns of the Burkinabe people, the peoples of the AES, and indeed the entire world. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President, this interview format offers two segments. The head of state will first speak with 3 journalists on national and confederal news. After this initial round, 3 other journalists will join to discuss African and international affairs. Mr. President, the first group is already seated. It is comprised of Nadege Yameogo, representing Citoyen Edition, Salif Sanogo, from AES Television, which has been renamed Tafuk TV, and Lassina Yao from Grind Zenger Studio, a German media outlet. So, they will be discussing with you, Mr. President, 4 key themes, specifically defense and security, politics and society, economy and development, and naturally, confederal current affairs. Good evening, dear colleagues. So, we'll begin with the defense and security section. All right, the honor goes to the ladies. We're going to start with you, Nadege Yameogo.
Good evening, Your Excellency.
Good evening.
And so, Your Excellency, what assessment can you offer us regarding the reconquest of the national territory?
In terms of reconquest today, we can say the initiative is ours. This is the most important aspect. For several years, since the beginning of this war, we have been waiting, and the enemy set the pace of the maneuver. And so the change, this shift, the fact that we regained the initiative, that's very important. And to be able to take the initiative, it therefore required a lot of effort in terms of recruitment, equipment, but especially training, because one other thing is also very important. Today no one truly knows our army. If I may say so, on the international stage, no one dictates to our army. We have broken free from the constraint of being trained by others, of having our operational plans dictated by others, our tactical approaches decided by others. Today everything is entirely endogenous. So it is Burkinabe people who designed the program based on feedback from their field experience, who trained the men, which allows us to achieve great feats. And as I speak to you now, our units have conquered many localities, particularly by advancing north of Djibo. These localities which have been lost for perhaps nearly 10 years, such as Baraboulé, and well, even beyond, all the way to Petekoli, our units have now reconquered. After some fierce battles, they are there, they are now established. In the east, we have also made significant progress, moving towards the Beninese border. Notably, key crossroads towns such as Najago and others have been successfully recaptured and are now fully under our control. And so, we are steadily advancing from victory to victory.
We can say, Mr. President, at any pista that the army is gaining power, many resources have been acquired and training is being conducted, yet we still observe many killings and the number of IDPs, internally displaced persons, is in any case steadily increasing. What explains this state of affairs?
Oh, the number of IDPs rather is decreasing. The figures are quite clear. We are resettling. As I said, many localities are being recaptured. A few years back, we were close to 2 million IDPs. Today, we have well under 1 million, and by this coming May or June, there will be very few IDPs left. Because these areas, indeed, if you consider, I was just talking about Barabule, Petekoli, the zones of Tulfe, Pobe, Mengao, Namsiga, and all those who know northern Burkina, all of that has been recaptured between November and today. So you imagine all this population that has to resettle and everything. So the number of IDPs will necessarily decrease. So these killings, quite often the enemy, as we've mentioned, when they're losing ground, they frequently resort to committing acts of utter desolation. So what exactly can they do? They find civilian populations, shoot at them very quickly, and then just disappear. And very often they have the sheer cowardice to even film what they're doing, these terrible acts against people who are completely unarmed and everything. And there you have it. They want to stir up emotion, actually, among the population. It's a war, and they're using guerrilla tactics. We are fighting counter-guerrilla, but the most important thing, as I've mentioned, is that we've adapted and we are evolving. Because it's not only the equipment that determines the outcome of a war. You can pay for all the necessary technological equipment, but it's the human resource that truly comes first. And the human resource, of course, needs to be trained, specifically militarily. And you see that many African countries spend their time getting trained by Western nations and so forth. So for us, our philosophy is as follows. Are these individuals who come here to train us, is it God perhaps who sent down angels to instruct them in the art of tactics? But why can't black people perhaps convince themselves that they too are capable of developing their own strategies? Just look at all the African nations. It seems that Western countries always have to come and train them. We have put an end to that. We train ourselves in the art of warfare based on our own experiences, and that forges the mindset of our human resources. And it's from there that you can create combativeness, resilience, and resistance, and that is very important. So equipment, certainly, but also the human capital that must be valued. And it's all of that combined today that gives us this success.
Your Excellency, you have elevated the Volunteer Brigade for the defense of the homeland to the rank of a national army. What can this bring to the fight against terrorism?
So we have therefore elevated it to the status of an army because that is precisely what it deserved. We are reorganizing ourselves. And if you observe, by elevating it to an army, the regulations have also evolved somewhat. There were many areas that were, if I may say, back in 2022, red zones, where we created, therefore, at the end of 2022, many VDPs and all that. But today, after 3 years, 4 years, many areas have become completely green zones. For 2-3 years, there are areas where we've never heard a single gunshot. We managed to create this security cordon around them. So it was necessary to reorganize the VDPs so that those in these green zones, if I may say so, would remobilize to go beyond, towards the region's borders, the country's borders. And so this created a group of national VDPs and regional VDPs and left very few communal VDPs to continue maintaining the stable situation. So this mutation leads to a reorganization. So they are now organized into operational units at the regional level. So it's like an army. That's why we've elevated it to an army and also given it its autonomy, complete autonomy in their sphere of operation, but especially in their maneuverability, because they have specific missions entrusted to them within the overall mission of the various armed forces. That's why it was elevated to the rank of an army.
If I may, Mr. President, you mentioned the training of men, which is very important. You also spoke about the establishment, for example, of the VDP as armed forces. Last December in Bamako during your visit, you spoke of a black winter, a black albino. Could you tell us if this winter has already passed, if this albino has passed without our knowledge, or what exactly is it about?
The black albino, it's about Burkina, he will come. I can say it's good news that will come for the good of our nation. That's what I see, and it's coming. But as for the black winter, I think the wind has begun to blow. The most perceptive will understand. This winter, we can't avoid it if we keep acting like this in Africa. Those who can quickly come together so that we may protect ourselves, kill the wolves to use their pelts and keep safe, cut dead wood to make a fire or build up hills that will stop the wind. Those who can grasp this will understand. But winter is already here. The wind has begun to blow.
And if we as heads of state continue with this behavior, nothing can prevent it.
Well, Your Excellency, as you mentioned just now, significant progress is being made on the ground in the reconquest of territory. But when will terrorism in Burkina finally end?
I can say that also not at the pace at which we've been moving forward since November. I can assure you, at this rate, we're not too far off. Because the most important thing for us was to completely change our approach, to avoid doing what we'd been accustomed to for 8-10 years. Because of these targeted operations, these very same kinds of bases and everything, we actually developed something different, a brand new tool. And once we put it to the test, it proved to be highly effective, which now enables us to venture into regions that were previously considered sanctuary zones. For instance, I particularly like to mention Wahiguya. You can clearly see that this specific area was practically their own territory. No one was able to venture in there or anything, but today our units have broken through and established themselves. And guess what? In some areas, when they arrived, they found them to be actual training camps. Well built, even better built. You'll find obstacle courses better designed than in our training centers. Just imagine, they established themselves, they brought in all the iron, cement, and everything required to build training bases, and that was quite a surprise for us, to be honest. It meant they felt completely at home on their own territory, but we have broken through, we've made it there. These territories are now lost to them because they had been under their control for more than 10 years. Entire zones, no one had, in fact, the army had never even settled there. And so we continue right up to our borders. And that's what I'm saying. Whether in the north or the east, everywhere, we are pushing back. And once they have no room to maneuver, no safe haven, it becomes difficult. But now, there's an important phase coming in a few months to completely close all gaps and prevent further infiltrations.
Because often we can settle in.
But they can find a way to infiltrate either by planting IEDs or by infiltrating in small teams, coming to kill behind the lines, thus creating these emotional events and all that. But we are going to close all the gaps. We will take whatever means are necessary for that, but it will end.
Your Excellency, decision has been made for an exceptional promotion for military personnel, gendarmes and police officers under certain specific conditions. Will this not inevitably lead to some discontent and friction within the ranks?
No friction, there is no decision in this world that can be unanimous on its own. If you lead an organization, no matter how small it is, understand that you can't, it's rare to have a unanimous decision. So it's definitely true that some people might get frustrated or something. Second, human beings are what they are. Not everyone sees things the same way or in the same direction, because we don't all have the same capacity to understand things, the same capacity to analyze and all that. That's just part of it. But one thing is certain, we are at war. If there are people who distinguish themselves by their ability to go beyond their mission, it goes without saying that we reward them. This wasn't something we had in the army. We modified the regulations and all the statutes, and we introduced this into it. And so we asked the various unit commanders who are out there in the field with their men. There are men who perform acts of bravery, truly exceptional acts that go above and beyond their mission. And to justify that with reports. So the hierarchy has a commission that convenes, reviews, and then decides who those individuals are. For example, take a soldier who, during a combat situation, his primary role isn't to lead a group or anything like that, because it's the sergeant who typically commands a combat unit, leading them and so forth. But you will find soldiers who, due to circumstances, found themselves taking control of a group, engaging in combat, and leading their unit out of a very complicated situation. These kind of soldiers must be rewarded because they possess the tactical capacity to be a sergeant. So these are the individuals that unit commanders are meant to identify and report, providing their names. The command will then review these reports, analyze all the information, and it's understood that they're promoted to sergeant to keep them motivated. Yes, there are other people too, perhaps, who want to do more, but are waiting to see the motivation behind it. It rather motivates, it encourages those who hesitate, who don't want to give their all to surpass themselves. That's what we ask for. And in war, it's very, very, very important. When a soldier, when a fighter excels, that changes the course of the war. You see, when there's pressure, it only takes one person to decide to hold the line or to make a crucial move, and that can completely disrupt the enemy's plan, and that's very important.
Personally, I find instead of frustration, it's encouraging and motivating.
Since we're talking about national defense, Mr. President, recently, neighboring country's army made an incursion into Burkinabe territory to plant its flag, but very quickly the Burkinabe army reacted to restore the national flag. What is your analysis of that situation?
Oh, no, not at all. The Burkinabe army didn't even have to go and plant their flag. As soon as they did, the local population took down the flag and put the Burkinabe flag back up. So even before the military units arrived on the ground, they went to gather the people, to preach to them, to tell them not to give in to provocation. We observe them, and as I've said before, these are behaviors that fall squarely within the context of the Black Winter. There are people who always behave like N-words. I wouldn't even say house N-words, but real N-words. So when their master tells them do this, they can only do that. It's like a curse. They just can't seem to move past it. Look at some. They've given their entire country to those people. They're just sitting there with nothing left under their control today. But when they're pushed to go to war, they're ready and they provoke. I've always told people, we are already at war, so we are not afraid of war. However, if someone pushes us to our absolute limits for our homeland, there will be no other option. We will have to go to war. And once it truly begins, no one can possibly know how it will ultimately conclude. But for an army that is not currently engaged in conflict, if it can successfully avoid entering into a war, that is always the preferable outcome.
But if they come looking for us, they will find us. That's all I'm going to say about this situation. We are observing. A word to the wise.
Excellency, we have now reached the conclusion of this initial segment, which was dedicated to matters of defense and security. If you would kindly permit us, we shall now proceed to discuss the political and societal aspects of this interview.
We're going to start with you, Mr. Sanonro, to open up this particular topic. Mr. President, it has been 1 full year since the Progressive Patriotic Revolution began. So,
Popular Progressive Revolution.
Popular is underway, my apologies. So, a year later, what's the overall assessment we can make of it? Are you satisfied with the results, or are there still things that need to be corrected?
If you have noticed, actually, since September 30th, it's been a true revolution, but we have waited.
A time to proclaim it on April 1st. And when we proclaimed it, we didn't release any specific text, no manifesto or anything of the sort, nothing about the ideology. We observed for another year. The manifesto will be available for people to see a bit of the ideology behind the main themes, but for now it was just to observe.
As I said, the Burkinabe people are inherently revolutionary. As soon as it was proclaimed, there were many initiatives, many people, whether they were intellectuals or not. Because when we say intellectual, it's censure, it's not necessarily those who went to school.
So it's not about those who speak French. Intellectuals are found in all social strata. Whether you go to the big rural market or just about anywhere, you'll find intellectuals, because an intellectual is first and foremost intelligent. It's they who are capable of understanding what we want to do. They took many initiatives to explain the required conduct during the revolution and what needed to be done. And I observed that everywhere people held conferences, educated and trained, all at the initiative of young people. That's very important, and it's what I wanted to see. And starting now from this manifesto, you see we're also gradually putting things in place. We had created the Institute of Black Peoples, but it hadn't really taken off. All of them will participate in training the Burkinabe revolutionary elite. And the revolutionary elite we truly want to train, those we want to reach, are the youngest. And I already commend the teachers and everyone. As soon as it was proclaimed, just look at many schools. A lot changed in terms of people's mentality. Teachers took initiatives. They began to train people in the revolutionary spirit, in patriotism, and everything that goes along with the revolution. I really appreciated that.
The teachers took the initiative right from the school, even before people were told to gradually transform schools into places of production, to re-establish school gardens, to enable the children to produce things themselves. In fact, they are bringing the children back to the core fundamentals of the Burkinabe way of life. That's what I wanted to see. Is that intrinsic revolutionary spirit still alive? And it's now that we must revive it. So, truly, we are satisfied, and it's up to us to do the rest of the work, to train people, because since this is a progressive revolution, the context has changed. It's somewhat different from the democratic revolution. The context has changed a great deal, the world has evolved, and the progressive revolution must adapt to the world of today.
And this transformation is therefore in the process of being regularized.
Excellency, the Charter of the Revolution was recently adopted by the People's Legislative Assembly, so this charter gives you the possibility to run in almost all elections. Some see this as a sort of open road to lifelong power. What is your response to that?
First of all, I honestly don't even know why people brought back the election question. No, even the previous charter, that was already clearly stipulated within it. It wasn't in the last vote, that we put the election issues in there. No, that's old. People brought that up with a certain mindset. No, we're not even talking about elections first. We have challenges, and we need to overcome these challenges. That we're sticking to our... The order is, we're not going to bend even a little. People must forget the question of democracy. And that's a job. We must tell them the truth. Democracy is not for us. The kind of democracy that these people are trying to show us, that's not something that interests us. We don't even want that at all. Normally, if you talk about democracy to an African, if someone just comes up to you like that, talking about democracy, you should run away immediately. Democracy kills. Is that what democracy is? Is that what we want? Look at Libya. It's an example right next to us. They lived in peace, didn't they? They lived in peace and water was free. There were so many things that were free. When people got married, they already received social benefits and all. Yeah, but today, the people of Libya, some are walking around with jerrycans, searching for water everywhere. Just look at the misery there is. How many hundreds of thousands of children have perished. Is this what they call democracy? Everywhere they try to establish democracy in the world, it always ends in bloodshed. May God save us from this kind of democracy. We have our own model. We don't even try to be like anyone else. We came here to completely change the way things operate, but above all, people's mindsets, so that everyone opens their eyes, sees the world, and we never again fall into these old ways. People are out there saying that democracy is slavery. There is no true democracy in this world. They do as they please, and to establish it, they kill. This democracy that kills, we do not want any democracy. May God preserve us from such a democracy. We are concentrated on our reconquest, on our refoundation, and on the revolution.
It is the only way to ensure development.
Excellency, the customary and traditional chieftaincy has been fully reinstated. This truly reflects your profound vision for peace and social cohesion. What exactly is expected from this important social entity?
Yes, I've often said it. In fact, the traditional leadership, this is still the place for me to thank them once again, to congratulate them for this mindset, because it's truly not easy. I often say, even for us who are young, we were born into a system. And to change the mindset of someone born into a system, it's very difficult. The traditional chiefs, politicians manage to co-opt them. And as I said, we must tell the truth. Politics in Africa, at least what we experienced in Burkina, a true politician is someone who embodies every vice. A liar, a flutterer, someone who never takes a clear position, who speaks well, a smooth talker. He just shifts problems around. That's politics. And if you involve traditional chieftaincy in this, what will be its true value? But today, we have decided to completely detach them from the political spirit, to bring them back into their proper role. Because the traditional chief, in terms of justice, you have seen the Faso Bukauri law that we had adopted. Traditional chieftaincy is truly the very core of this particular law. In our society, not everything actually goes before a modern judge. We have our own internal mechanisms, for instance, to resolve our social issues, whether it's issues concerning minor thefts or I don't know what else, right up to murder. These are settled within our communities.
We want to restore traditional chieftaincy to its rightful place in that role. And once you manage to establish, or rather create a space for justice within your community, you then create social cohesion, you foster mutual support and solidarity, you therefore cultivate love among your people, and that is precisely what we seek. So there are many things expected of them. They are the ones who transmit our indigenous values to the youth and show our young people how the Burkinabe of yesteryear lived. Until today, thankfully, we have been able to preserve in almost all communities an ancient architecture of how our societies functioned. And so it falls upon the traditional chief to bring back into being this particular architecture, to implement it, and to dedicate modernism to forging that essential connection. So it's a truly complex responsibility we're entrusting to them, but I am confident, considering the spirit that has already emerged from the discussions surrounding this law, that they will successfully accomplish the mission.
So you're entrusting a complex role to the traditional chieftaincy, and at the same time a law has also been passed regarding religious freedoms themselves, and I believe this particular law is causing quite a bit of controversy, and often there are many misunderstandings surrounding it.
Is that so? But a law that's not even debated in the National Assembly, that makes everyone so upset? Have people actually read? When it comes to a law, have those who speak about the law read the law first? Have they truly understood the law? The Assembly will soon convene religious umbrella organizations to discuss the law. So these are the umbrella organizations, the representatives, the leaders of the different religions. That hasn't been done yet. It hasn't been debated yet, so many people don't even know the law's content. As I said, there are always people easily manipulated, weak-minded, who don't look too far, who are very ignorant. You should know that the proposals don't even necessarily come from the government, because there were consultations before with many communities. This is a law that has been under consultation for over a year with the community, so there are a number of reforms within it, but especially organizational ones. And I truly believe this particular law primarily serves to protect religious individuals. In that sense, you see, just imagine anyone could simply stand up today and proclaim themselves to be a spiritual leader. They would then preach precisely as they desire, saying absolutely anything they wish. They could develop an entire unique ideology completely by themselves, and they would be under the control of absolutely no one at all. This law allows for organization. For example, among Catholics, there's an umbrella organization. Among traditional leaders, there are umbrella organizations. And among Muslims, there are umbrella organizations. And it's this umbrella organization that should normally organize life within the community. Someone, for example, cannot just stand up, appoint themselves, give themselves titles, and start preaching whatever they want. If, for example, you were to be an imam or a religious leader who has to preach or something, the law stipulates that your governing body must issue you a document that certifies you have the capacity to practice what you intend to practice. But does this give a significant influence to the religious leader rather than the current state of disorder? Someone just stands up, builds their own mosque, and then proceeds to do exactly as they please. They construct their own temple or their church right there, and then they simply do whatever they wish. So this is what we tried to regulate to some extent. Essentially, it's about giving more weight to the umbrella organizations, allowing each to define within their own lineage how religious practices should be conducted.
Your Excellency, the activities of political parties have been suspended, and subsequently their dissolution was confirmed. So what message lies behind these decisions?
No message at all. What has politics been able to do in Burkina?
Not much. It has divided us. That is a reality. Even within families, two brothers who belong to opposing parties, they will develop a savage hatred you cannot understand. And that is quite dangerous. In terms of development, politics is like a business in Africa. So, yeah, you are I'm the president of a party and I'm recruiting you. You are smooth talkers, you are skilled deceivers. We flatter people and they will follow us. We have business operators on the left and on the right who help us with funding, and you go out and corrupt the people. Once you have thoroughly corrupted them, if we win the elections, what can we possibly do? Steal for a return on our investment. And these operators who have financed you, you simply have no choice. You are obliged to grant them all of the state's contracts. You cannot make them pay their customs duties as they truly should. You cannot make them pay their taxes properly because they need a return on their investment. That is the stark reality of the situation. Even we, when we arrived, operators approached us as well, to finance something. We are not politicians. If you want to give money, that's what led us to create a commission for receiving donations, if you remember. After the FSP now. Yeah, we were looking for money, but at some point we said, oh, you have too much and a bad habit, so hand it over. And we took it and put the treasure in an account. Now if later you come back saying, oh, we support you, but I need my trucks cleared at customs. They said this and that, you must help us get them out. Generally, that's what happens. They even explained the method to you, saying you're young and don't know anything. But that's not going to work with me. You'll pay all the customs, you'll pay all your taxes properly. If you want to extort or blackmail someone because you've supported something or other, that money goes to the treasury, it helps our fighters. So this is the way politics is done and all that. We're completely done with that. This truly requires a brand new political ideology. We absolutely need proper training before anyone even talks to me about politics in our own specific way. So that's precisely why we've suspended it.
Then we dissolved.
But even those who were making policy themselves agree. The RPP, you see, it's not other people. These are the very same individuals, but I believe that people have now understood they were manipulated, they were on the wrong path. And now we are in the process of rebuilding something entirely new. So in a way, it's not as if certain individuals have simply left. They are the very same individuals, but I think there's been a significant turning point that allows us to start afresh on new foundations.
So it's dissolved, the imperialist parties, but the men are there, being rebuilt, ready to launch the Burkina Faso machine.
Excellency, the former head of state, ex-Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henry Sandaogo Damiba, has been extradited from Togo for acts of undermining state security and attempted destabilization. What is the next step in this case? As analysis.
This isn't the first attempt, Since we've been here, there have been attempts.
This time I believe there was overwhelming evidence that we were compelled to present. So, because, on our part, there were several attempts he made while he was based in Togo, but we didn't seek to extradite him or anything like that. Often we would then tell the Togolese authorities, look, this is what he's doing, you need to advise him.
Because when he left, we made no attempt whatsoever to start a witch hunt. As he's often said, we never opened a single file for corruption or anything else against him, because for me, that's a matter of principle. A former head of state, if he has served as head of state, I'm not going to give anyone grief about that, because it's a significant responsibility that was entrusted to them. They led millions of people. Even if it was just for 1 month, they did it. So, out of respect for that principle, whether it's President Roch or Damiba himself, I have never bothered anyone.
It's not necessarily because they are white, There are many other factors, but I decided not to cause trouble for anyone.
Harry should have just gone and settled down peacefully in Togo. Unfortunately, he has now entered a spiral where he feels he must destroy us at any cost. We tried to contain that, but if you consider the latest attempts, there are still very serious matters where he told those who were to carry out the actions and so on that many would die. They just have to kill as much as possible, because to achieve their goals one must kill. And not even worry about it, because they also have ties with terrorists who will kill many around to occupy units, so they can come to Ouagadougou to support us, So a planned thing like that, where they had to kill many innocent people unnecessarily. We have sent all the evidence to the Togolese authorities. He was not able to deny it. I believe he was heard there by the justice system and everything. This is real. That's why he was extradited. But for now, he's here. We are investigating, and it's a very complex case because there's a lot around it. What we discovered is that it involves many countries that we wouldn't even imagine, who were supposedly our friends. It involves many people, many high-profile individuals from all over the world, and we understand that there was a huge operation, in fact. Anyway, a judge has already seen it. It's heavy. It's very heavy. And for us, it gave us a lot of information, a lot of lessons.
To quickly talk about the fight against corruption, which is currently in full swing in Burkina Faso and is yielding results, but some believe that only small fish are being caught for the moment and that the big fish are managing to slip through the net.
Want to talk about Korak cameras?
Exactly.
No, Korak cameras, that's just one part of it. But wait, when the case is serious, is it really only Korak cameras? We're talking about billions here. You followed this, didn't you, Liv? But that's not the only matter. Many other cases are handled, but some are just publicized. So there are big fish caught in their clutches, but either their trial isn't made public, or there are also those who have stolen, but they do what's called a transaction. That is to say, they reimburse with penalties. It's the people from the finance department who calculate all of that. It's because this word exists too. If you steal and you get caught, then a decision can be made to do a transaction. You pay and you face all the necessary penalties. And then if there's a sentence to be served, you will also have to do that. Yeah, so there are many trials that are currently underway. The justice system is very overloaded right now. But that's only what you're able to see, because even small acts of corruption also lead to larger ones. Because these minor corruptions truly frustrate the general population. Just imagine someone who has a very sick relative in the hospital. They step out to urgently find a specific medical product, and then they are suddenly stopped. For example, we have implemented a process, for instance, with the Leban Brigade, so that people are no longer arrested and their vehicles seized or detained on the spot. No, you see, you receive a card and then you are free to go. But what if an officer now refuses to do that, and someone has their child or perhaps a loved one dying in the hospital and they're rushing to get a prescription? We put a process in place so that this person could quickly get their products and then depart. But through corruption, you hold the individual back, contrary to what we state, and you demand payment directly into your own pocket instead of letting them leave. This is the harm that such actions can inflict upon the population. That's why we are also fighting this. And that's what we showed publicly for people to stop. It's the same with the land registry, the plots and so on. People, you can go with all your troubles, beg them, but they don't care. However, the great mass, what we refer to as the servants of the people, the public administration, all across the board, you are here to serve the populace. And if you commit acts that frustrate the people, to inflict harm upon the community, we will not stand for that either. But now, we absolutely must show this to everyone, so that others don't make the same mistake, if I may say so. That is why we film and we show it. We have many, many cases concerning this. This is only a small part of what we've shown, but we have many cases. But also the big fish, as you say, there are many cases. A lot of cases are handled through the Justice Department. People are making repayments. There's a great deal happening, you know. But I can certainly say that it has significantly decreased. We cannot claim that we're going to eradicate it 100%, but the struggle is truly relentless, and it's producing good results.
So we will now move on to the third and final segment of this interview, which is specifically dedicated to the crucial topic of economy and development. And we shall begin with you, Mr. Yago.
Your Excellency, Burkina Faso has achieved unprecedented record levels in the mobilization of its own domestic resources in the year 2025, exceeding 2,300 billion. Despite the challenging security situation, what are the key factors or levers that are supporting this remarkable record mobilization?
All right, thank you. The first thing to say about this is our human resources. So, congratulations go to our finance officers. They are the ones who did the remarkable work. Of course, we spoke, we brought reforms, changed mindsets, but it's because they embraced these mindsets that they are able to do the work as well. Otherwise, you can introduce many reforms, have great policies. It's true that steps must be taken for their implementation and so on. But if the human resources haven't grasped the core principles, they will always find ways and means to circumvent them, and you won't generate any revenue. So, as I've said, it's them first who deserve our congratulations, because they've listened, understood what we've said, and are now applying the texts we are adopting. This is what generates all these revenues. So, congratulations, and I believe we are continuing the reforms to ensure we can secure the maximum revenue. This is what allows us to equip our forces, to train them, and to build our country. So the agents of the Ministry of Finance have understood this, and they are truly doing a tremendous job. We will continue to encourage them to surpass themselves, especially in the context of combating fraud and all related issues. You can see they are really stepping up their efforts, and we commend them for that. If we don't do this, we cannot protect our industries, we cannot protect our economy, and everything that depends on it. So, you see, if they had reverted to their old practices, we would not have been able to achieve this level.
Mr. President, you have launched a gigantic project, the construction of the Ouagadougou Highway. It seems to be a project you hold dear.
This is something I hold very dear. It's not, as I've already stated, the only path we're going to pursue. And however, the Ouagadougou Highway, if you were to take the road to Bubu, just consider for the past 2 years, the sheer number of tragedies we've seen on this road. The road is extremely narrow. There are too many fatal accidents. Every day there are fatal accidents on this route. We need a road. We found an existing project, but it's a 2-lane road in each direction. And when I looked, I tried to see which companies had bid and all that. Firstly, these were foreign companies. And the cost of construction, about 300 kilometers, a 4-lane highway, we were at over 1,000 billion. 1,032 billion was the cheapest. Well, I said 2x2, that's already completely insufficient. 2x2, if a truck breaks down, it just stops. And then, well, that's the end of it, right? Considering the number of cars, the traffic flow on the RN1, it's simply overwhelmed. So I requested that we build a 4x2. And as I've already mentioned, you see, often we have this particular complex, this unfortunate tendency. Black people don't believe in themselves. That's the point. Even when I said 4 times 2, there are ministry agents who...
We just smile, you know. It's impossible.
I said, okay, we're putting the project on standby, so I activated Faso Mergo to purchase the maximum amount of equipment and down to every detail. Today they have everything, all the necessary machines to do the red road section, all the necessary machines to do the asphalt, right up to the granite crusher from the quarry. So that means they are totally autonomous.
Therefore, we are in a position to build our highway.
And after that, there will be many highways. I want every single regional capital to be connected by modern highways. Every single exit from Burkina must be a highway. You see, roads are absolutely vital, both for our economy and for our forces. Burkina's highway network will be the densest in all of Africa, exactly as we have projected, and it continues to grow. We still have nearly 10 brigades yet to come. What has arrived isn't even 40% of what's to come. We're going to get serious equipment, make a qualitative leap in 5 years, that's it.
Roads are essential for development. Mines are just as crucial, and we know that Burkina Faso has made a significant leap, now ranking among the top 4 African gold-producing countries, which is very important. And today, you have successfully established your own gold reserve. So now, Mr. President, what future perspective does the creation of this gold reserve announce for the country?
Gold is a safe haven, as they say, with currencies unstable and all. Everyone's seeking gold to build a reserve because you never know. You know, we went through a short time in 2023 when they tried to block us on everything. When we tried to buy drones, our transaction was not going through. We looked for ways and means. Because just like with our equipment, we stepped outside the official channel for sending things to ECOWAS to obtain authorization. When we refer to ECOWAS, we're talking about the French who are present, who grant or deny permission to acquire specific weapons. We simply didn't want to go through that particular channel. Consequently, our transactions were also blocked, based on arguments that simply don't hold up. So here we are, the war is upon us. We want drones, we want weapons, but we can't. At one point, it was the hydrocarbons. Sonabi's transactions are not going through. So these are indirect sanctions to suffocate us. And in due course, diplomats came to tell us that we had every interest in changing our approach to rally, because we won't even be able to pay the salaries by March. That means a full 6 months. We won't be able to because we have no control over the economy. They're capable of things. I said, no problem. Wait, so one day I had all the gold production from every single mine blocked. I gathered everything and told the partners to come get their gold and send us our drones. That's exactly what we did. Our drones arrived, they picked up their gold, and then they left. We need someone's money.
It follows that gold is important.
People need gold. We need something in the world. Anyway, it's not about how people will cope, but it does take courage. That's true. But that's what we had to do for a certain period, and people understood. Well, they found a way to manage, and they eased up a bit, and these same people even came to pay for gold with us. The BCAO, I mean. So, gold is very important, and I believe everyone should acquire as much gold as they possibly can. We didn't have control over our sector.
We have seen the data, but we have created all the mechanisms to now more or less control the production sector. Currently, we are in the process of acquiring stakes in many existing industrial units. We have reviewed the mining contracts, so to speak, and everything. Anyway, in a good atmosphere with these people who are here, who are exploiting, and Burkina Faso will benefit from its gold. Because everywhere in Africa, that's the problem. It's incomprehensible that you have such a large quantity of gold, and yet they say you are the poorest, you are the last.
But why is that the case? There are countries that possess oil right here on the African continent. You travel to the Gulf nations, and they too possess oil.
They are much more developed than the countries in Africa, but we are cursed. We must ask ourselves the real questions, and then change.
But if the leaders refuse to change and the people themselves accept their wretched conditions, then what can truly be done? As for us, we absolutely do not wish to see our people living in such destitution. It is true that we do not possess oil, but we certainly do have gold. The little that gold or other resources can provide, we will exploit it judiciously so that our people may experience happiness. That is our primary objective. There's no reason why people elsewhere in the world have gold. They develop and we have gold, yet it doesn't develop us. So we've made a considerable leap in mastering gold these past few years, and it's satisfying. And we will continue like this until we regain full control of our gold. That's what I can say.
Precisely, Mr. President, can we get an idea of the quantity that makes up Burkina's current gold reserve?
No, I really can't tell you that. It's not something that can be said publicly. It's something that must be kept secret. Even countries that claim to, they'll tell you how many tons of gold they have or whatever, but it's not true. That's not the reality. They will never tell you the exact amount, because if we know exactly how much gold you have in reserve, that means we know your exchange capabilities and everything. We can anticipate many things about you.
And it's not what we've done, we are doing it. I told the minister every single day, God sends.
And that gold is for its countries. So every week we keep paying to build up reserves. That's it. And that's so that when we want to deal with everyone, we'll be respected. That's it. So no one thinks that if they don't come to do something, they can't. We're not in that mindset.
If you want to show us you're disrespectful, we'll put you aside. We'll move on to something else.
So we continue to build our reserves. This is for respect in tomorrow's economic exchanges, and that is very important. You have placed your governance under the banner of industrial development, and in this regard, many facilities have been launched and others will surely come. What is your assessment in the industrial sector? Oh, the assessment, I can say that it is embryonic.
We are only at the very beginning, and I think I'll soon have to undertake another communication exercise with my people. Because people still don't quite understand. People believe that industrial units are necessarily big structures and all. Young people can create small but very important industrial units. You see, for example, when you wake up in the morning, the little spoon you have in your coffee, who makes that in Burkina? Do you know anyone? Can't we manufacture these? Surely there are small machines that we need to build, and young people get a little bit of training and then start manufacturing. That would create a business too.
We must first examine our everyday lives. What are the things we do every single day? What is it that makes up our daily routine? And that's precisely where we need to draw our ideas from.
All that we were good at importing, and as young people could say, okay, this we import, we don't make it here, or we don't make enough. I'm going to get into that, start a project on it, seek knowledge about it. And we, for our parts, try to support them. So the industry is still embryonic.
We are at the beginning. Currently, we've started on some sectors which allow us to be a little more independent. Because, as you can see, everything is imported into this country.
When I was talking about what we consume, today, for example, we've started cultivating wheat, and we have factories producing wheat flour and all types of flour for making bread, biscuits, and other products. But before, we used to import flour.
When importation was banned, people built factories, but they go to pay for wheat, and then they process it.
But today, we want to cultivate our own wheat so we can produce it ourselves. Do you realize how much money we are saving? And in parallel with that, there are factories that we've helped people to fund, which will be opening soon, and they'll be manufacturing all sorts of food paste, like spaghetti and other similar products. We used to import all of that, didn't we? When we buy our pasta, it comes from elsewhere. We don't manufacture anything here, but this is for our own consumption. This will be internalized. As for rice, we've already made incredible progress. We grow a lot, but we've encouraged people to set up many processing units. There are many varieties of Burkinabe rice today. This is what we consume. Take corn, for instance, or couscous. We used to grow our own corn, and then we export it as raw material. Then we go and pay for couscous from other countries, and then we come back and, you see, flood our own markets. This isn't working out. Many new production units have opened, and we're still actively encouraging more. If you've been following the news, it's all about being able to process these things ourselves, things like infant flour and all related products. We're importing everything from abroad, but we need to stop that. We must process our own raw materials ourselves and be able to add value. Oil. How can we export our raw soybeans and then go pay for soybean oil at the store, peanuts, and so many other oilseeds? But why aren't we doing it? Some will even say, oh, there are diseases. We're told to buy sunflower oil or something. I said, we grow sunflowers, we can do it. There are already factories pressing sunflower oil, so we can do everything ourselves, but why should we pay elsewhere? So that's what industrialization is all about. Today, you see the pineapple. I am currently encouraging new factories that will be established, producing pineapple juice. Instead of importing, we are the ones who will be exporting it. And this is turning out very well. It's much higher quality than what we even pay for, in other coastal countries. So there are many things in our daily lives, what we eat, what we wear, and everything.
And when we wake up in the morning, we have to be able to look at ourselves, okay? I stood by this.
That, it's imported. I said, no, we're going to build a factory that will take raw cotton and turn it into finished goods. It will be ready this year, 2026, God willing. So I no longer want to be dressed in fabric made from thread that comes from outside, because our farmers cultivate cotton. I cannot accept that the price of cotton is imposed on farmers when we ourselves have to process it. And just imagine the number of jobs that this creates. For a long time, we've been training our people in vocational and technical schools, in mechanics, industry, industrial engineering, and what have you. They are just sitting there, unemployed. They didn't study industrial engineering, but then they seek civil service exams to become administrators somewhere. The truth is, we've lost. But today, if there were industries, all these people would have a place to contribute. When you wake up in the morning, you take your motorcycle to go to work or whatever, it's imported. Even the nut, when a nut falls off on the road, it's imported. So you can't pay back the cost of the component. But these components are small machines that can do it. So industry, everyone must understand, ranges from small scale to large scale. So when we say industry, it's not necessarily about large units. All young people can create small industrial units by looking at what we do in our daily lives to reduce imports. So we're at the embryonic stage. We'll communicate and encourage. That's why we restructured the funds, as you've seen, into 4 major funds. This is really to support those with strategic projects in industrial sectors, to avoid imports and foreign currency outflows. That's what I can say.
So, Mr. President, allow me to ask another question. We are currently celebrating specifically the National Days of Patriotic Commitment and Citizen Participation. The slogan built around these days, the first phrase is, "My plate, my pride."
So, what specific message would you like to convey to the Burkinabe people regarding this slogan?
So Gersh, there are things I haven't been able to tell people until now, but God willing, a day will come when I will say things to truly shock people's consciences of Burkinabe people and Africans in general. We recently implemented a reform to establish what we call the Food and Drugs Administration. That is everything related to food and medicine. We are currently modernizing a laboratory to conduct all possible tests and analyses. Let's consume what we produce. Our lands are rich, our farmers are brave. Let's produce, transform and consume. We don't necessarily need the luxury or the modernism that we often pursue, but what we truly wish for, we can certainly achieve. And that's precisely why I often tell people this. I always tell them, I wasn't born in Ouaga 2000. What I'm truly accustomed to is my simple morning porridge with some fritters. If I win this, I'm good. If I don't win it, I'll drink tea, and that's it. Croissants and all that, that's not my problem.
Because the day I truly make this my own personal mission, my way of life, then the wheat must be produced right here by my own farmers and processed right here, all the way to the bakery by my own farmers. I didn't used to eat chocolate myself, but today I can tell you that I often send people to go and buy chocolate from, there's a master chocolatier, in Burkinabe in Ouaga, right here. Master Bayala is only there that I perhaps would say I'm going to have some chocolate. That's it. And it has many outlets nationwide. So if someone else is looking for where to pay, they won't know. This means we need to be aware. We must produce in Burkina, consume in Burkina. In Africa, that we come together and truly grasp this. If we don't understand this, we do so at our own risk and peril. How many individuals today are becoming impotent, infertile, or something similar? Our ancestors, they were exactly like this. This is the undeniable reality.
It'll make people laugh, but it's the reality.
Even medications, too many infections, antibiotics here and there. We were fortunate enough to know more about roots and other natural remedies, but I even told our doctors, our researchers, to refocus on our own natural resources. That is the plants we have here.
What molecules are in it? What can they exploit? And they're focused on that.
I even had proposals where people asked us to pay for equipment that would allow them to do thorough research. I said, that's what I prefer. Because we must be careful. They tried to exterminate us, and they are not going to stop today. Yes, my place, I said, that must be my daily battle. And even the very place we put our food on, I told you, porcelain and such, everyone uses it. Is this made here? But we can do it. We don't lack clay, that's not the issue. So that's what I can say about this day of patriotic commitment. We must become ourselves again, own what we produce, and consume what we produce. And only under this condition will we endure. What I'm about to say will cause a lot of controversy and won't please everyone. But the reality is there. No one wants to see our people progress. And yet, no, with this project, in 10 years, Burkina will reach 50 million. Or what? I have children, you know. We really need them. Our lands are rich, and so we'll work hard. And that's the main thing. So that's what motivated this, and we'll continue in that vein.
Mr. President, Burkina Faso is making great strides towards self-sufficiency and industrialization, but as you said, we must produce a lot locally. And to be able to produce, local industrialists and producers must be supported. What is the status of domestic debt relief, the burden of internal debt?
Yes, we certainly made a lot of effort. We put in a lot of effort. I remember that in 2022, it was a crucial question. Every single time is nothing but complaints. So eventually I'm requested to examine the whole situation. When the newly appointed minister took over, he stated, there are debts from many years and companies that have been exerting pressure. There were even some businesses that were on the verge of collapse.
They said, but it's not that simple. However, we have to finance our war, we have to pay for our equipment and do other things.
So I said, what we'll do in the first semester is focus, pay for a lot of equipment, and we'll reorganize. Within 1 quarter, here are the texts we'll use for, regarding taxes and all that. We've tried to do some work. And starting from the 2nd quarter of 2023, we must hustle so that when we finish the year 2023, there are no more debts from 2022. There are only debts from 2023.
We made an effort, but there were always these major corporations that still carried debts from 2022, which we were unable to collect. And progressively, I keep track of these towards the end of the year. Are there any remaining debts from the previous fiscal year, N-1?
So, looking at 2025, specifically December 2025, there was no outstanding debt from the previous year. On the contrary, I advise prioritizing businesses that don't have too many large invoices. And so, usually within 3 months or 6 months at most, we manage to clear all of that. So what this means is that we've moved away from a volume of domestic debts, several hundreds of billions, that had been dragging on for years, and we've been able to catch up completely as of today, as I speak. So there are still some large companies that can have invoices outstanding for up to 6 months. We tell ourselves that when we consider their turnover and all, they can certainly manage with that. But we make the effort so that small businesses don't have debts hanging over them, preventing them from operating. So major efforts have been made, and we continue to follow this step by step there.
Your Excellency, energy, of course, plays a crucial role in industrial development. This year, we're observing a significant increase in load shedding compared to last year. So the immediate question that arises is, what exactly is being done to put an end to this concerning situation?
So, as I've mentioned, when it comes to energy independence, we're starting from a very low point. There are many things that are being done, but look, we've launched several projects this year, and we were really hoping to have all of our generators before January. But if you've noticed, groups came in not even a few days ago. They keep coming. You see, they transport large machines on long tank transporters and such. You often follow when they come in. They practically move at a man's pace. To leave the port, even to get to Ouagadougou, it takes at least a month. It progresses very slowly. Unfortunately, it arrived quite late. There are even some groups still waiting at the port, whom we haven't been able to bring in yet. So even for those who managed to get in during February and March, I won't lie to you, we simply couldn't set everything up in such a short amount of time. We were too dependent. We were importing, the prevailing trend was to import from Ghana and Ivory Coast, Morocco, more than half of our total energy. That's why we decided to build our own power plants ourselves to become self-sufficient. And that is currently underway. And also, as I mentioned, there are many things involved. Some ships have been diverted at a certain point because of various conflict situations. Something that was meant to arrive in 45 days, we're now looking at 70 days or even more. We reach the port again, it's like gymnastics. So new power plants are being built, and the program is to set up one in each region. Instead of concentrating Ouagadougou and Bougou to provide service, we want to make the regions autonomous, and so several power plants are currently being installed. I believe that in Koudougou it is almost completed.
A bit everywhere. There are other cities we've even targeted to have power plants.
So we hope to be able to solve the energy issue, at least in the shortest possible time, as long as we don't have other international constraints. As long as there isn't even enough energy, our dream of industry cannot possibly come true. It's simply impossible. Industries, they consume a lot. There's also our entire transport network that needs to be completely changed. And just changing this network alone, that's hundreds of billions. We have to order all these cables and then build them. And if you notice, all over the city, everywhere you look, new lines are being constructed. So all of this is a massive undertaking. There's the production aspect, but also the entire transport system that needs to be completely rebuilt. And that's precisely what we are focused on. This is so we can have our own clean, pure energy, transported with a high level of security, and which will be stable for all of our industries.
Your Excellency, in February of 2023, the state established the Agency for the Promotion of Community Entrepreneurship, APEC, with the aim of implementing popular shareholding. How do you assess the progress that has already been made?
Indeed, that's true. One must acknowledge that APEC was born out of a clear determination. APEC has faced considerable opposition, and it continues to be challenged. We have witnessed absolutely everything. Yeah. We even caught people red-handed, riding on the streets, defacing, tearing down APEC posters and all, who were sent by others to do it. Many business operators fought APEC, bankers fought APEC. That's a reality. They cannot deny it if we haven't acted in a certain way. It's not for lack of means, but we avoided that because we want to make them see. And so in communication, APEC was also sabotaged. If they already sabotaged through physical acts, it's not through communication. So people paid others to speak on social media, in fact, to denigrate. So APEC was born and faced this wave of hostility, but they managed to push through to weather the storm, and already they were able to build their first units. The second unit is almost finished in Tinkodougou, APEC's first mine. All the equipment is there. God willing, in a few days they will cast the first ingots because they've already extracted the ore, they are installing the plant. And the second mine will begin operations shortly as well. And so on, we will provide them with semi-mechanized units. This will allow them to achieve profitability very quickly, but to reinvest that into industrial units. You saw they launched the paper processing plant in Banfora and all that. So there is work being carried out so that they can also extract gold and also to utilize it to accelerate the launch of industrial units.
Mr. President, last December you took over the leadership of the AES presidency and you have a great many priorities. You truly have a lot of things to accomplish. And today, could you perhaps tell us, 3 months on, what are the truly major priorities for your mandate, especially since your term is for 1 year?
I believe you're already familiar with the roadmap, I suppose. The experts have convened and reached an agreement on a roadmap, and that's what we intend to implement. Within a few days, the chiefs of staff are expected to be present for the initial major operations. It is essential that the force possesses all its necessary assets. Therefore, if it chooses to intervene anywhere, it must do so with its full range of capabilities. And so, for example, this component, we are quickly strengthening our capabilities because when we talk about capabilities, we need autonomous power, and that's very important. So we need this and to operationalize it for very large operations throughout the entire area. So that's an important task. Secondly, there's also the question of integration, because we shouldn't be talking about integration and then behave like other organizations. Integration must be real, and for that I am currently preparing a document so that we can truly redouble our efforts and prevent any unnecessary hassles or harassment between our different countries, whether at our borders or internally, because we shouldn't harbor the hypocritical illusion of other African organizations. When we say integration, it is integration. Many people are turned back at the borders. They're really troubled. Even within countries, people are often hassled. So I've thought about a mechanism to put an end to this, and the forces of the 3 countries must be united in all nations, in their embassies and at their borders. We will implement this mechanism and effectively combat corruption. If an officer is found to be involved in corruption, in facilitating illegal passage, or abusing his authority during inspections, we must have the courage to come down on him with the utmost firmness and resolve, to expel him from our ranks because he is not even worthy of bearing our name. And the other aspect is the economy, development. I think there are a good number of projects that we are currently implementing, and that's a battle because it's the economy that runs the world. And there too, we have a major challenge that we will overcome, God willing.
Excellency, on March 12th, the European Parliament adopted a resolution for the release of former President Mohamed Bazoum. You have already issued a statement. Is this an interference in the affairs of the Confederation? Certainly an interference. Niger, does Niger belong to the European Union?
They just need to remain quietly in their own homes. Have we ever interfered in their internal affairs? Bazoum, he's a Nigerian citizen, isn't he? Or is he perhaps from the European Union? They should tell us if he's an agent they had placed who is not Nigerian, who came here for a specific mission. They just need to tell us if we're going to hand over their agent. We'll then see what action we'll take before handing them over or not. This has to stop now. People must stop behaving as if we were still in the time of colonization. And that's also what we are denouncing, what we are fighting against with many African leaders. Look at us. Even the African Union doesn't belong to Africans. They are dictated to. What they're told to do, they do. They're told to make a certain statement, they do. Even the African Union building itself, it wasn't built by Africans. We have absolutely no shame. And as long as we keep displaying this kind of attitude, they will continue to act like that. The European Union Parliament, but you should deal with the European Union's problems. The populations, they're not suffering, and the farmers in those places suffer. We see them, they brutalize their farmers in the streets with strange agreements. They can't even survive anymore. People are killing themselves there. Yeah, but deal with your own problems. Fight against your oligarchies that impoverish your people, instead of coming here to say that they are taking our energy from Africa. In any case, if it's from our land, here, we will fight so that there's nothing left here. If you want, you come. You cooperate in due form. If it's to come and plunder us, then never. That's the battle. It's about energy.
Uranium, oil, and even our very own gold. This is what the battle is all about.
For a very long time, you've been plundering there. And that's what happened. And they are left in the dark. You're in the light. You can do just what you please. But wait, okay, we'll get ourselves prepared.
Mr. President, within the AES is a common vision. We speak with one voice and common actions are carried out together. This has been observed repeatedly. I would just like to know, diplomatically, can the bilateral somehow take precedence over the confederal?
So in that particular context, perhaps we need to be a little more decisive to clearly articulate that, yes, it is indeed a confederation. Every single country is certainly free to develop its own individual bilateral relationships and so forth. But at some point, if those actions are going to have a significant impact on the confederation as a whole, then we must be able to intervene and put a stop to them.
Then this requires sincerity first among us, the leaders, sincerity in our policies, our internal policies, to prevent a Trojan horse from slipping in through bilateral cooperation within the organization.
This is a topic that is very current, that we ourselves are currently working on. We are consulting with each other on this, and I think that by that point we will have a very clear resolution concerning it, so that the bilateral does not take precedence over the confederal.
Your Excellency, the AAS Implementation Agency is also one of the most eagerly awaited instruments. So what is its current status? Where do you stand regarding the establishment of this agency?
Yes, we are actually modifying it. Instead of saying execution agent, we want it to be more like a consultancy actually, because the model, as we said in the AES, is to avoid doing what didn't work before. If you look at the roadmap, you'll see we didn't put execution agent, I think. I had said to put a consulting agent because we still need to restructure and equip ourselves to be a proactive force. There you go. In terms of agriculture, what should the three countries do? Because it's not obvious that everyone produces the same thing. Anyway, we don't have the same climates. So some things can be produced in one country, others in another, maximized. And then the most important thing is the market we're going to unite.
I believe it's a better formula than an execution agency.
I know many actions are being taken. There's the joint force you mentioned, but isn't it time, Mr. President, that we also consider at the confederal level this process of doctrinal dialogue to de-radicalize all these young people who are indoctrinated, when in fact we're talking about religion? These terrorists are not religious people as such.
Yes, there's work to be done, but we ourselves try to communicate a great deal about this so that young people can understand. And when we even show them images of certain operations and such, it's so that young people grasp that there is no future for them. But, you know, the indoctrination efforts in Africa have been deeply ingrained.
It has been very profound. Whatever anyone might say, there are many young people who are joining these terrorist movements in the name of religion. That is an undeniable reality. If we ignore it, if we don't tell ourselves this truth, we would have failed. So we must also put even religious leaders to work on this. Here, we've put people on an alternative discourse project, and we're going to correct it. We're going to impose a discourse. That's what must be preached everywhere, because extremism is dangerous, and it's extremism that leads people to join this kind of movement. Many people over there believe in it.
I told you once, I myself was out there in the field. Today the young soldiers are out there on the ground. What is the reality of it? You cannot destroy a terrorist base without finding some holy Quranic books. Why?
It's layered over there.
Those who are there, fighting on the ground, many of them fight because they genuinely believe it is their religion. That is what they are told. And their leaders indoctrinate them for this very purpose. Imams come from all over, you see, to deliver sermons to them in the bush, to indoctrinate them in the sense of religion and make them understand that others are infidels. They must be killed. And this is what happens. They have these books out in the bush and they read, the others are infidels, they must be killed. But their leaders know very well what they are doing.
And they are quite comfortable, very well off. More often than not, these are precisely the people who do everything that goes against what religion itself dictates.
When it comes to adultery, they are champions. Alcohol, drugs, they are champions. But their work is political. They know what they're doing because imperialists control them to destroy our nations, and they are well off. Their children, their families are well protected somewhere. And but they're going to indoctrinate these idiots, the ones I call out, on the ground, those holding the weapons, and they truly believe that it's religion. This is why we ourselves must develop mechanisms for people to be able to preach at every opportunity, to make it understood that this is not religion. And that is absolutely imperative. I completely agree with you. It is in progress. We must have one single document, and everywhere we can convey the exact same message.
Perhaps this will help some who are convinced of this notion to put the brakes on and not go down that path anymore.
Because even in our cities, it's not uncommon to come across young people who think that you are not a true believer, you are an infidel. And they despise you so deeply, they even feel the urge to kill you. And they tell themselves in their minds that if they kill you, they will even go to paradise.
People like that, they're ready to take up arms to kill so-called infidels. But he's been indoctrinated, so we need to do the opposite work. Anyway, we're working on this to produce a document.
And every time individuals are called upon to speak, to preach, and so forth, they must be capable of preaching in a manner that effectively dismantles the narrative. And I believe this could also represent a significant step forward in the recruitment efforts of terrorist organizations.
Yes, Mr. President, perhaps just one final question on this particular aspect, given the current situation unfolding in the Middle East today, especially concerning the Strait of Hormuz. Is there a possibility that the closure and the closure of this strait, and of course the war that is being waged there, could have consequences for our economies, the economies of the AES countries, particularly concerning oil?
It's inevitable. There are already consequences now. In Burkina Faso, we're trying to carry on. You know that everything like gasoline, diesel, and cooking gas is heavily subsidized. In fact, the price that we pay for it is not the price that we sell it to the population. So the government provides subsidies. And what does the government use to provide these subsidies? It's our very own natural resources that we are exploiting once more. That's what we're also trying to guarantee and protect, to subsidize these types of hydrocarbons. There are already consequences. The price of oil has risen. The resource itself is becoming scarce because the exporting countries have also raised the price. So we are paying a lot more. But we, for our part, have tried to contain, to always maintain the same prices, whether for gas or for petrol. And we truly hope the situation will resolve itself. Otherwise, if there's a cost on energy, there's necessarily a cost on industry, a cost on raw materials, a cost on everything that is imported, because transport becomes much more complex. So everything is increasing as it should be. But up until now, we have been making efforts to ensure that our populations do not feel the effects of this war, because unfortunately, we ourselves do not produce any oil. Within the confederal space, Niger at least is currently in production. There is a project, by the way, that we have placed on the table to see how it is that we should not, we ourselves, focus on our production here. And in any case, we are awaiting proposals from Niger, which possesses the resource. Then how should we perhaps develop very large refineries to exploit what's in our subsoil for our populations and everything? Then we would no longer be dependent on imports. Otherwise, when a country produces oil, yet still re-imports refined petroleum products, well, that's a bit strange. But in Africa, this is actually quite common. All the African countries that produce oil, most of them end up importing oil because they export crude and then re-import. Energy is the foundation of everything, even fertilizers. You see, fertilizer prices are going to rise because many were imported from those countries, but the prices will certainly go up. So we always try to keep them contained. Otherwise, it would have a considerable impact on our economies.
That's a reality.
Indeed, thank you very much, Mr. President. So we have reached the conclusion of this first session, if I may express it that way. Thank you, dear colleagues, for all the questions you addressed to the head of state. We will now ask you to withdraw to allow the second team, which constitutes our second segment, to take its place. So, Mr. President, with your kind permission, we will now proceed to the second segment of this program. This second panel will also welcome 3 journalists, but this time from the international press. This is Yusra El-Bagir joining us from Sky News, a prominent British media organization. We also have with us Gilles Boko, representing New World TV, a media outlet that is based in Togo. And Valerio Cataldi from Rai TV, which is an Italian television channel. That's correct. So good evening, dear colleagues. Let's open this chapter now with African news. And for once, it's not customary, but we'll start with you. So, Madame Yusra, now your first question, which you wish to address to the head of state.
Mr. President, what is the overall vision of your country?
The overall vision of Burkina, is that what you mean? Well then, thank you, and a warm welcome to you all. And I believe you are in the country that today champions sovereignty, national sovereignty, and total independence. Because you are not unaware that our country was colonized like many African nations, but today we are expressing ourselves, and so the struggle for sovereignty and independence is the driving force of our fight.
Thank you very much. Could you please explain what your revolution truly signifies in practical terms? Is this primarily a revolt specifically aimed against the Western world, or is it more of an internal national transformation within your own country?
Revolt against the West? No, not at all. The West is, we shouldn't be mixing things up. I always like to make the distinction as a revolutionary between the people and their policies. There are many people across Europe and throughout the Western world who are supporting us in our struggle. We see this among the people, and we even observe it on your television programs and such. Many individuals who are speaking out, who are supporting our fight for freedom. And I think everyone has an interest in it. But now the policies of certain countries may be opposed to our ideology. And the revolution, logically, will fight this ideology because we want to assert ourselves. There are those who don't want us to assert ourselves, who want to keep us in slavery, in alienation. No, the revolution fights that. So that's our guiding principle. There you have it.
Yes, so Mr. Boko.
My first question is, how do you define Togo's specific contribution to the consolidation of the alliance of Sahel states? Do you consider Togo to be a strategic partner in this new architecture, even though it is not officially a member of the AES?
Togo is a country, and in any case, I really wanted to thank the Togolese people and their authorities. I can say that Togo is more than just a strategic partner. I'm not talking about a strategic partner. I'm talking about countries, about brothers. Because when people try to stifle you, to kill you, and a brother can truly help you, I believe that brotherhood goes no further than that. And during these challenging and difficult times, Togo has consistently taken its firm stance, and even to this very day, Togo upholds its position, its clear line of conduct, which is to fully support the AES. And therefore, it is a truly brotherly nation. It is much more than just a simple partner. This is what I can say. And Togo has undertaken many initiatives, whether on the economic front, via the sea route indeed, but also in the area of defense. Burkina Faso, for example, and Togo, we have extremely tight cooperation in combating terrorism and related issues, and that is something to be commended.
We've gone beyond what people can even imagine. And I used to say this often, today the two armies' responses to one another and their strategic planning are no longer at the state level. It's not like it used to be when a plane from Burkina has to intervene or a Togolese plane has to intervene. We have to call all the way to the presidency to get authorization to cross the borders. No, it's handled at the local level. It's not even headquarters, it's entirely at the local level. So the forces coexist and everything. So you see, it's an exceptional partnership. It's brotherhood, it's all we ask for.
And this partnership has grown stronger and was certainly solidified with the extradition of former President Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba.
Yes, strengthened is too strong a word. It was already firm. It's just a logical sequence. Togo cannot be in brotherhood with us and allow someone on its soil who seeks to destroy its brothers. So we were the ones who wanted Togo to keep him for a long time. This person's actions didn't just start now, but at some point, with overwhelming evidence, Togolese authorities decided to remove him so he wouldn't block our progress. So that's also commendable.
Have you already met him in a one-on-one meeting since his extradition? Why?
No, I didn't do it. He's in the hands of justice. He's facing inquiries about funds and all. I didn't do it.
Excellent. We've counted at least 5 coup attempts against you. Who wants to kill you and for what reason?
You've only counted 5. There are many more. That's what might be revealed, you know. Every single day there are people who are trying at all costs to make sure we are not here. The very people who want to see us disappear, those are the ones we refer to as the house slaves. They are the ones who sell out Africa, who simply do not want Africa to be free. It's very often Africans who are alienated, who are exploited,
Today you are Italian. Consider the migration flow towards Europe and especially Italy. And I also wanted to commend your authorities for the humanism they very often demonstrate. We have seen countries that even if they don't intentionally overturn the boats, they certainly won't make an effort to rescue them. There are numerous humanitarian organizations in Italy that are doing a great deal of work, which I observe and deeply appreciate. And many Africans are currently in Italy. But for us, our philosophy, it truly pains us to see our young people embarking on such perilous journeys towards Europe. Where a young African could take a plane, travel around Europe all over, but not risk getting into a boat, getting killed in the ocean, possibly just to reach Europe. Supposedly he's looking for El Dorado, for work, nothing more than to survive. We don't want to see that. We want to fight against this. We are among those leaders who want to create the conditions for our young people to work right here. Instead of going to stay in other people's streets begging. And very often some end up with behaviors that are certainly not healthy in your societies over there. We don't want to see that. Africans are not subhuman, but in this same context, the countries that colonize us, who want to see us enslaved, who want to keep us down, have their henchmen here, their local lackeys, their proxies. And these people will stop at nothing to see us eliminated. And sadly, this is Africa's reality. And these individuals, every day we live, they are not content. So it's a permanent and continuous struggle.
And who are these so-called imperialists?
Imperialists, there isn't a single face that you can really identify. It's a mentality, a way of thinking. It's not a question of anyone's skin color. I was just saying, the European people support us a great deal. Many European leaders, in fact, even support us. I heard one of your leaders, specifically from the international stage, Sonette Dalarou, who stated that the fact France exploits Africa with its CFA franc and all, creates these waves of migration towards European countries, particularly towards Italy.
She is absolutely, completely right. That's just the way the situation is.
So, you see, it's in Europe, but not everyone understands it the same way. So, imperialism is the individual who wants to dominate others, to keep them in slavery, to oppress them. They can be black, they can be white, they can be African, they can be European, they can be American, they can be Asian, they can be of any nationality. But any individual who has this desire to oppress others, to keep them under domination, is an imperialist.
Can then individual liberty be integrated and your revolution for total sovereignty, the freedom to be who you want, to express yourself freely, to impose your power?
Ah, yes. This is something you did so well to come. That's good. Something the mainstream media, as they're called, spend their time lying about in Europe. As if here, people were walking around with axes and gourds. When you open your mouth, they strike you. That's not true. You know, there is such a thing as freedom. Everyone is free to say exactly what they want, to give their own opinion and everything. Even on our television channels, you can see people expressing their views. But freedom, however, has its limits. For example, we are a country at war. We will not allow anyone to demoralize our troops while they are on the battlefield. That we will not allow. We will not allow the local lackeys of imperialism among us to sabotage our struggle to bring our country back into the clutches of those imperialists. An individual's freedom, as has often been said, stops exactly where another person's freedom begins. Otherwise, you simply cannot have a functioning society. Just as you yourself are free to express exactly what you wish to say, he too is free to express what he wants. And when you start telling each person what they want, what does that ultimately lead to? A fight. Are we going to sit back and let our society go into decline? No. Even those who speak of freedom of expression, in reality, there is no true freedom. So let's consider the French, by which I mean the French authorities, so as not to lump them in with the French people. Is there freedom of expression in France? There is none. If you don't align with the authorities' ideology, you're kicked off TV sets. There are journalists who are expelled, or we recently saw Alain Foucault and the Claudicia who went to RFI. These are journalists who have spent decades in radio. Why are they expelled? Their opinion. So there's no freedom of expression there at all.
Just look at the wars that are taking place today. Are you completely mad as a journalist? Go and try to make a specific report. It will never get approved. When the Russia-Ukraine war first started, many Russian media sources were actively sought out in France. Is that really what freedom of expression means? Absolutely not. Every single freedom has its own inherent limits. When the farmers, the yellow vests, and other groups took to the streets, they were quite brutally beaten. They simply wanted to express their opinion, to tell the state, we need a certain policy so that we too can live. Here, we take care of our farmers. Our farmers have never marched, they've been beaten. We take care of them, we do everything we can so they can farm peacefully, give their best. But elsewhere, that's not the case. Yet these are the countries in forums proclaiming themselves lands of liberty. That's false. They're all dictators.
The freedom, it's specifically concerning Africa. So we really must put freedom into perspective. Here, we are considerably more free than they are. Much, much freer.
So regarding the destabilization attempts you mentioned earlier, it's often said that certain neighboring countries are behind them. To call a spade, Benin, Ivory Coast. Have relations evolved with these neighboring countries? Are you ready for the escalation? And under what conditions, Commander President?
It's not up to us. They are the ones who started the hostility. Let me remind you of something. When we arrived, we had no problems with anyone. We communicated with everyone, we interacted with everyone, and so on. But one day, for example, I was sitting. The Minister of Defense told me that the Ivorians had sent a note to withdraw all their students from our schools, the academy, the PMK, you see. But I asked what's going on. And then they're pulling out all their officer and non-commissioned officer students and everything. No explanation, I said, but then prepare for reciprocity to bring our children home, because we don't know what's on their minds or why they're doing this. That's the starting point, the first action taken by the Ivorians. We too brought our own students back inside and allowed their students to leave. And gradually we started to notice acts of hostility being directed at us. No problem at all. Let's take Benin and others. We didn't provoke anyone, but we also, when they tried again to bring war to our region, but who was at the forefront? President Ouattara came out saying he would send a battalion. He prepared everything. We are still waiting for his battalion. The president of Benin said they need force. They will use force. They will wage war. We are waiting.
We are also ready for war. There can be no de-escalation while these mentalities persist. He who seeks will surely find. Therefore, no, we are not the ones who started this. If people are not intelligent enough to still let the imperialists come and tell them, so no, kill each other, black brothers, then let's go ahead. If that is the solution to achieve independence, we are ready. But no one is going to enslave us again. We are ready for that. We are fighting. We are already fighting because terrorism is a manifestation of imperialism. So don't even talk about the escalation until the whole mentality has truly changed. There are people who, every single month or every 2 months, they have to rush to Paris to go and take their orders.
And come back to put it into practice. They are not free.
They are not free. We, on the other hand, no one tells us what we are supposed to do. We govern based on our populations and the needs of our people. Our people need water. We do everything to provide it. They need self-sufficiency. To eat their fill, we do everything for that. They need security. We fight for their safety. They need roads, development. That's what we strive to achieve. But we're not going to someone's place to take orders to award road contracts to a specific company or give certain things to another company or anything like that. They are slaves, in fact. And as long as they remain in that mindset, forget about de-escalation. On the contrary, things will only go from bad to worse.
As long as they persist with this particular way of thinking, that is all I am truly capable of stating at this moment.
And what about the fundamental human rights, Mr. President? This is a crucial point. International organizations have accused you of repressing the independent press and civil society. Is there a place for human rights in Burkina Faso?
Are there human rights in Burkina Faso? What exactly do they mean by human rights? Personally, I have no idea what they are thinking. You understand, no one is going to come here to finance individuals, to indoctrinate them, and then destroy our nations. That simply will not happen. Do you even know how many NGOs are operating in Burkina?
Can you imagine? Do some research.
It's not even hundreds, it's a lot. I'm not going to give you a number. Do your research. Find out what each NGO do you really think it's humanitarian. So these are the kinds of things we fight. They say we're fighting human rights. That's what human rights are. We are fighting against terrorism to ensure the safety of our populations. So we are granting our people the right to life. That is the most fundamental right, isn't it? The right to life. Are we not fighting for human rights? We are fighting for the closed schools to reopen so that children can go to school.
The right to education, isn't that a fundamental human right? Who is fighting for us and who is helping us?
These very same people who complain loudly every single day about human rights, not a single person has given us even one bullet to fight against the terrorism that kills our children, to fight against the terrorism that closes our schools, that destroys our schools. What this means is that these terrorists are fighting against human rights. Who fight for human rights. And they encourage terrorists who fight against human rights. They're the ones saying it. I was just telling you about some things happening in Europe and so on. But it is over there where they are fighting against human rights. Otherwise here, human rights do exist. And remember one thing, human rights come from Africa. They don't come from elsewhere. So it comes from Africa, from West Africa, right here. The very first charters that spoke of human rights were established here in the AES Confederation, specifically in Mali.
The Charter of Kurukan-Fuga.
So human rights were known to Africans. We were well organized, a society where everyone had their rights, even women's. It was in Africa that women's rights existed. Yes, elsewhere, it simply didn't exist. And these are the ones who can come and talk to us about women's rights or human rights. They don't know any rights at all. Who even talks about human rights? Who bombed the children who were killed in Libya? Who is bombing children everywhere, dropping bombs without distinction? Killing children and such, is that a state of human rights? That is not what we do. We fight for the lives of our people. We protect them. Our soldiers died to protect them. We do everything to open our schools, to ensure their education. We do everything to subsidize our farmers, to promote agriculture so they can eat their fill. We do everything to dig boreholes so that everyone has access to clean drinking water.
Who exactly is it that's fighting against human rights? It is them, and only them. They have absolutely no respect whatsoever for human rights.
And CVDPs accused of serious violations. Where do the promise investigations stand?
To those who say the VDPs are accused of serious violations, what evidence have they presented? We ourselves, who have apprehended VDPs for certain acts, they are in prison. These VDPs are in prison, and they know exactly where they are. And we said anyone, that's not just anyone. Listen, we are adults. We are grown-ups. We must not let anyone see us as subhumans. We know what we are doing. And this mentality is also dangerous because often some leaders in the West and elsewhere, they see Africans as subhumans. And so they come here as if they are here to teach us things. I told you, the right to life, we teach it to the rest of the world. No one teaches us that. So it's true there were some small problems. Some VDP, some committed abuses or other things. They're in prison. We have no qualms about that. Now, all these things that they are claiming, what kind of concrete evidence did they actually present? Absolutely nothing at all. It's our word against theirs. When people accuse us, we investigate, and very often we find it's what we call perfidy. Terrorists come, they massacre people in places, often in our uniforms. Often they even claim it's the army, and then they leave. They came wearing army uniforms. Yes, but it's not us. They put up our flags, all our insignia, then they come and do it, and the terrorists publish videos of that. But why don't we see it? Terrorists post on social media videos where they're in our uniforms, in our gear and everything. They go out to perform actions, and then they film themselves giving to these people, these individuals, to say that is the armed forces. They are well aware because they themselves go there. How did they manage to get access to the terrorists' channel, to get footage? How do they do it? And some people even have the audacity to tell us they filmed it. I remember an NGO once who, through satellite images, saw Malian forces committing abuses. They're not even ashamed. They don't have the intelligence to know that what they're saying isn't right. Why do I say they lack intelligence? It's because they consistently perceive black individuals as subhuman. If you possess the capability to deploy satellites to observe forces committing atrocities, yet you lack the ability to use satellites to locate terrorists, then you are truly insulting us. Here, our entire struggle is solely for the survival and security of our people. We live well. We live well. We are in good harmony.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to go where we want. And so we couldn't act, and you can walk around Burkina, right? You can go anywhere you want. You'll see what's changing in Burkina, what the people appreciate about our revolution and everything. And that will do you a lot of good.
The conclusion of a tripartite meeting recently held in Cotonou between the chiefs of staff of the armies of Côte d'Ivoire, France and Benin, one of the officers, specifically the French chief of staff, declared that since your assumption of power, the security situation has severely deteriorated. One might even say it's catastrophic.
What is your answer to this officer, Mr. President?
He's French, isn't he? He should just mind his own business. We are Burkinabe. That's none of his concern.
He needs to understand that point. Everything I'm saying is, when someone speaks about our nations, it's a direct insult to us. That means they perceive us as being subhuman. What business is it of theirs, really? The situation has deteriorated, and it's strictly between us Burkinabe people.
Does that concern him? Not at all. He should mind his own business, and he should stay home. What right does he have to meddle in Burkina's affairs? Or is he still the colonial power?
Let him say it loud and clear, that he is the master colonizer and that we are slaves. That's why he's interfering. Otherwise, why is he talking about Burkina? What business is it of his? They were here. I'm the one who drove them out. They left this place at the start of 2023. They were here. When they were leaving this place, Bobo Ouagadougou was cut off. We couldn't even get to Ouagadougou, the two capitals, anymore. The terrorists were there. Kumbia, Gohogo, everything was attacked.
Koudougou. People had retreated all the way to Koudougou, 100 kilometers away. Everything, absolutely everything, was completely surrounded. They are in Singaline, which connects Dejedo to Toko. Anyone who could take that road.
But they were right there, weren't they? With all their helicopters, their tanks, and everything else that's required. Their technology, their drones, their satellites. So they're just completely and utterly incompetent. Today, we are moving around quite calmly and completely freely. And just last time, there were ambassadors from the European Union and several European countries who explicitly asked, can they film here? I was quite surprised to see them on television. They seem to be traveling all over the place. From Ouagadougou, they're just wandering throughout the country. Me, I go where I want, not by air, but by road, right across my own country. We can't just get up here in Luris, Kargawa, go do whatever we please, then come back and go to Tinkode.
That's impossible. It was Burkinabe people who fought to reclaim our own lands. And if that's worse, then it's certainly much, much worse for him. That's not good for him at all.
This progress of ours is dangerous for France. It's dangerous. It's not good for us to reclaim our lands. So, understand that he's right. When he speaks, it's not for our benefit, it's not for our people, it's for their own good. They want us to be insecure, and they come, but they've been incapable of restoring security.
And we will say it even tomorrow, loud and clear. When our forces are fighting, we don't need them. Let them deal with their own problems, and well, us too.
That's it.
Regarding Russia, has it been effective in providing assistance to you in your efforts to combat terrorism?
It's important for people to understand one crucial thing. It's true that the Russian president himself has expressed a desire to provide all the assistance we might want in the fight against terrorism, and that he's willing to send troops if we wish. Why? To help us combat these forces. But I'm telling you something important. We are Burkinabe. No one is going to come and fight on our behalf. That, you see, is something intrinsic to us, the Burkinabe people. So regarding everything that we are doing with Russia, if we happen to need any equipment, Russia, in any case, has certainly opened up its doors. Everything that we want to pay for, they are prepared to sell to us.
So this in itself is already a major breakthrough. There are many countries whom we wanted to pay with our own money, but they refused, didn't they? Yes, many European countries and others, they completely refused to sell us the equipment.
But Russia provides us with exactly what we want. Secondly, with Russia, we share a lot of valuable combat experience.
So they are at war. A war, I would say, a very modern one. We too are learning from their war. We ourselves are at war. And they, in turn, are learning from our war. Do you understand? So there's a mutual sharing of experience.
It's quite a restricted area. Other than that, no one is helping us on the ground. It's the Burkina Faso soldiers who are fighting, who are reclaiming our lands, and who are continuing to advance. No one knows how it's progressing.
Even for our training, we train each other. No one trains the Burkinabe army. That's the point. Because we have a concept I like to tell people, and I'll say it right now.
You, Europeans and others, your armies there, did God come to show you how to wage war?
Are you more intelligent than us? We have the same brain.
So we too will develop this war with the war that is ours. No one comes to train us, and no one knows how to fight this war better than us. I can tell you this, if European armies come here to confront terrorists under our conditions, they will die. It is we who know this war. It is we who lead it. It is we who train ourselves to fight this war. Africans must stop believing that God sent a Messiah to teach others how to wage war, and that they should come and teach us. Why? We can buy technological equipment from you. You come to teach us how to operate the equipment, yeah? After that, you leave. Yeah, that's what happens with the Russians, the Chinese, the Turks. You see drones, some advanced equipment. When we pay, they come, but it's usually for a few months. They teach us how to use the equipment, and then after that, the contract is finished and everyone goes home. But on the battlefield, this is a Burkinabe territory. These are our lands, and it's us who will fight for our land. That's the logic.
Excuse me, Mr. President, but more than 60% of Burkina Faso, that is the vast majority of the country, is now controlled by jihadists. Does this approach truly work? Is it effective?
Who said that?
That is the truth.
Oh, yes.
These are the undeniable facts.
You can choose anywhere you want on the map.
Online, print,
there,
online. The truth, the actual fact.
She might have looked up some information on the internet. Oh yes, that's it. It's the same ones, the same media, the same governments. They're painting Burkina red. That's false.
But I'm the head of state. Or just now, we were discussing assassination attempts and all that. Name me a city. There are only a few cities that I haven't visited yet. I go everywhere, and everyone goes everywhere. So in the north, there was a gang that was under control.
As I just said, our forces have reached Petigudu today. In the east, near the border with Benin, our forces captured Nadiabu a week or two ago. Right now, they are in Punu, next to your place.
This is a place where we can't even live. It's all lies. They are absolutely lying. Everything they say is completely false. If it were truly as you claim it to be, we'd be touring all of Faso right here, wouldn't we? We'd be driving around, wouldn't we? Riding bikes, wouldn't we? We'd be organizing our own events.
You're not sure. Some events said last time Djibo disappeared, Djibo fell. Meanwhile, a football competition in Djibo ended just days ago. They are lying.
The art of lying, that's what Western media excels at. Many of these mainstream outlets, as I often say, they just lie to sell you misinformation and make you think everything is terrible. On the contrary, many things are actually going quite well here. Our economy is performing exceptionally well. We are doing much better in our struggle, and we are making progress.
So, what you read on the internet, you really must be careful.
Does Russia help you manage your online image?
Why? As for me, I truly don't need that. The Africans are already doing it.
Many of your populations in Europe already do. In America, pretty much everywhere.
Do you think all these people, it's us, we can help them or pay them or do something for them? No, because I believe people have seen our struggle. They understood our struggle. You see, that's the kind of habit people have. What exactly are we paying people to manage? Why? To help them manage and organize their online image. That's what.
No, we're beyond that now. Several media outlets approached us to do this.
I told you this. We said we won't pay. We won't do it. Go ahead. Ruin our image. They're doing it, aren't they? Jeune Afrique, RFI, you know, we're never going to pay for that. Before it was done. And even where we paid, I shut everything down. We pay nothing now because you have a state company, they make them buy shares in their media. Shares in media are in return.
You guys, you invest. I put a stop to everything.
Whoever wants to, they can just tarnish our image. We, our people, they know what we're doing. Africans, they know what we're doing. People who want a just world all around the globe, they know what we're doing. So, on their own initiative, people speak of the good we do, because what we do is also just. Our struggle is righteous, so we're not paying anyone to whitewash our image or anything, no. Please, spare the Russians from all these accusations. Every single thing, it's always the Russians, the Russians.
You believe that Africans aren't capable of doing anything? Russia always has to hold people's hands.
Excuse me, leave them alone. Russians have their own fight over there. We have some really good collaborations, but don't think for a moment they have a slave-driving mentality. That's what many people believe. No, the Russians are not like that at all.
They don't interfere in other people's personal lives, and that's what I truly appreciate about them. Okay? Yes.
Indeed, regarding these new strategic partnerships, especially with Russia, one could say that things are not looking good for Russia's allies, particularly in Venezuela and Iran. So I asked myself, do you foresee the dark winter reaching all the way to Ouagadougou? Does it ever cross your mind that you might be abducted one day just like someone else and then judged elsewhere? Can this dark winter truly extend its reach all the way to Burkina Faso?
You know, Africans have a problem, and the major problem is wanting to believe that someone else will fight your own battle for you. I've just explained this in great detail and at length. From the very beginning here, as I told you, we received all kinds of proposals, not just from Russia. Many countries offered to send troops to help us and so on. We said no, no, and no again, because I've instilled a certain mindset among our military leaders and so on.
Our struggle, it must be about us first and foremost. Our security, it must be about us first and foremost.
No one's going to come and do it for you. If someone comes to do it, then first of all, they're no longer your lands. If someone else has to guarantee your security for you, then it's not truly your security. You are being held captive. And if you have to learn how to secure your surroundings from someone else, that means they know all your procedures. They know absolutely everything. Do you understand? And if you form an alliance, believing that in an emergency, your ally will be the one to come and fight, you are completely mistaken.
And I'm always telling everyone this, to those who are close to me and to those who are far away.
You must rely on yourself first and foremost. And when you rely on yourself and develop your own capabilities, you won't have anything to fear. So, this is very important. So, I'm not counting on anyone. If there are allies of Russia who have relied on Russia for certain events, that's their problem. As for me, I'm not counting on if there's a particular event here, Russia being present on day one or not. No, I'm not counting on that. The only support Russia can provide when I pay for something to defend myself is that they accept my sales. That's all.
You don't ask your allies to come and fight, to sacrifice their lives for you. Why would you ask that? You are not human beings.
Yeah, but if you react like that, then it's like you're making yourselves second-class humans, meaning you're not humans on the same level as others. But that's the mistake many people make by wanting to, exactly. Even, how many heads of state have their security provided by other nationalities? It's not about them. Secondly, how many heads of state, when their own men provide security, send them to train elsewhere? That means we lack the intelligence to develop anything. If you send your security to train elsewhere, it means those people master your procedures. They control everything around you, so you haven't actually done anything. You're sitting there believing you're dressed, but you are naked. So there are many things. I can't go into all the details here. There are so many things that Africans need to consider, and some others too. Listen, we have a saying from our village, when your back is washed, you must hustle to wash your face too. So, if there are strategic alliances that support your interests in certain sectors, the rest, you must be able to develop yourselves. It's like the military industry. We're here in Africa, just sitting around. I say yes, we urgently paid for equipment to continue our threat and wage our war. But do you think we're going to continue like this? In any case, not Burkina Faso, because our mentality is different. From now on, we will produce our own military equipment for ourselves, and if others want it, we will sell it to them. Because I am truly convinced of that. We're not, we also have brains. We can think, we are not stupid. But if you behave in a certain way, you're showing others that you are foolish. You produce nothing, and you don't even intend to produce anything. You develop nothing, whether tactically or technically. You always rely on others, but you are not human beings. You shouldn't count on others. You must first and foremost rely on yourselves. And this applies to every individual within Burkina Faso. Every single Burkinabe must rely on themselves first. And the revolution is precisely this mindset. I see, back then, everyone just says, it's a state, it's a state. We are changing the situation. You must rely on yourselves first before turning to the state. And so, even at the state level, that's precisely how things are. So that's essentially what I have to say. Therefore, there's absolutely no need for any concern. We have a system that we've carefully developed, and we're constantly perfecting it over time. But no one comes here to show us anything or to teach us anything new. As long as God has given us a brain, we will always use our own minds to think.
Excellent. The visit, Nick Chaka from the American Department of State to Ouagadougou signifies a closer relationship with the West.
Yes, I was following it. They asked to come and have a discussion with us. I think that the Minister of Foreign Affairs who had discussions with them, and then also a little bit in the countries of the In fact, people need to understand something. We are not opposed to anyone. We are not against any specific person, but we are against those who don't respect us and refuse to accept our sovereignty, our independence.
Even today, France itself, France is not our enemy. As I've said before, the French leaders, they have their own policies. But the French people, how many French citizens actually support us? How many French people, even in the media, they discuss that we pay to whitewash? No, how many, influencers or whatever? French people make videos, those on social media, those who make videos there to support us. There are so many of them. Yeah, great many, in fact. I want to acknowledge them as I speak. We don't even know who they are. They see and understand our struggle. Anyone who wishes to cooperate with us, there is absolutely no problem. But if you come here and you intend to show us that you are somehow superior to us, then it's over.
You're leaving. But if you've understood and you must come to deal as equals, man to man, there's no problem. We can talk business. Everyone conducts business around the world. But imagine you come here and say, okay, I want your gold. We'll give you 10% and we'll take the rest. In Burkina, that doesn't fly anymore. If you come, we'll talk. What do you bring to the table?
Okay, the resource belongs to us 100%, but depending on what you contribute, we can evaluate and then say, well, we'll give you 40% or 45% or at most 50%.
And we leave them, and that's a discussion.
Being that if you don't want to, if you come here with the idea that, well, they're just Negroes and we can take whatever we want, that simply won't work. So anyone who wants to work, who wants to do business in Burkina Faso, you must come with a clear and honest mind, and we will make it happen. Even if tomorrow French entrepreneurs believe they can invest in Burkina Faso, they are welcome to come. But if they come with a master's mindset, if they come to deal with slaves, we will kick them out, and that's the end of it. But if you come and want to deal intelligently, without any ulterior motives, then we can discuss. The contract is quite clear. If you step outside of the agreement, you will be told to return home. This is about respecting our own sovereignty and our independence. That is truly very important.
Why do you think that the younger generation feels such a strong affection for you?
Why do I believe young people like me so much? That's something I truly don't know myself. I really can't assess that myself. If young people like me, it's perhaps due to the ideology that we are developing. Take, for example, the health sector. We are currently equipping our hospitals with all the latest possible technologies. Healthcare costs have drastically decreased. But will the youth really like it or not? Medication prices have dropped. This has nothing to do with the sub-region, not even in Europe. Consider the infrastructure sector, building our own roads ourselves. Young people are gaining employment because the Faso Mewa agency employs thousands of young Burkinabe. The youth like this, don't they? The entire country can do the same thing. In the agricultural sector, we've provided the resources. We've purchased thousands of tractors that cultivate the fields of many farmers free of charge.
And when they are large fields, it is subsidized. All countries want to see this or not?
We are producing this year, we've achieved a record production. Since Burkina Faso's existence, we've never produced this much. But is that positive or not?
Everyone will be able to eat their fill. The purchasing power is increasing.
We were in the process of creating industries to transform our raw materials. Will young people like this or not? Young people will be employed to operate the factory, but also in mechanics and all related fields. So let's take the domain of transport, for example. Even in urban transport, we've seen that we are very far behind. We have decided for a phase to fund at least 500 buses that will transport people. This means many who couldn't get around will now be able to. And this creates employment. For 500 buses, just considering the drivers, you're looking at 1,000 people employed. Is that good or not? So in all these areas, we are constantly evolving. This is what young people see as positive, what they appreciate. And I myself appreciate that. It's not me, my person that they love. It's the ideology that they love. And perhaps it's this ideology they want duplicated everywhere so they can live with dignity. That's it. When we look at education, we're building lecture halls for our universities. Look at the students, the backlog that is terrible. If you see how the students were, we've created university centers everywhere, but no lecture halls. They just wandered around the cities like that. But today we are building amphitheaters all over the place to give them a little dignity. Soon these will be university campuses because they don't even know where they can stay. Some of them are even sleeping on the ground within the universities.
We need to help them secure proper housing. For university restaurants, we must help them so they are able to eat. Is that a good thing to do, or is it not good? And for the schools, the children and all of that. Children, quite often, they don't even have a school to attend. Today we've adopted models and are building quality, well-made facilities which significantly reduce class sizes. Otherwise, you end up in rooms 100 plus, 200 plus.
Can they teach? Can they actually work? Even the teacher himself is suffering. We're readapting everything to get the student numbers back, make classrooms up to standard, and provide all the necessary tools. Is this good or is this not good? This is what we are doing. It's for the well-being of our population. And throughout Burkina Faso, for health centers, we have put a project in place. We've already built nearly 40 of them, and every year this will continue. Yeah. And in these health centers, there will be doctors assigned so that we don't want someone to have appendicitis or a fracture or something and not be able to operate on them there.
He needs to be sent to the city for surgery. I just walk around my country, I see.
I've been to villages, to provincial capitals, hundreds of kilometers away from Ouagadougou, where when a woman is pregnant for the entire 9 months of her pregnancy, every single time she needs an ultrasound examination, they have to take her all the way to Ouagadougou. Personally, I am completely against that. So we are installing ultrasound machines over there. We are improving the medical facilities. Is that a good thing or is it not? We have successfully recruited the necessary doctors. It's the very first time. And what's more, this is happening in Africa. You know, the 1000 times 5 initiative. We have launched a 1000 times 5 program for specialists to deploy them across the entire region so that essential healthcare services are brought closer to the population. Is this right or is it wrong? Will you help me to speak of it? All that I could mention, there's so much. No, they're not talking about that. They're putting us in the red. Our country is gone. Nothing is going right here. Everything's wrong. Do you understand now why I'm saying that in reality, we have liberty here, we have everything here, but they don't want that. When we thrive like that, it's not good. They don't want that. So they have to tarnish our image. Otherwise, you can walk around. Everything that I say can be verified. There you have it. And that's exactly what young people want to see, and it's what we are doing right now.
Commander President, it's certainly because you are so admired by young people that you embody, for a large part of this African youth, a hope for dignity, for an awakening. However, hope can also generate immense impatience. So, what message of truth do you address to these young people who are watching you from Bobo, Zingere, Kaya, Lomé, Bamako, Dakar, or Abidjan, and who are waiting for the Africa of your generation to finally be one that delivers results? Commander President.
I cannot, in all honesty, claim that my ideology, if I may express it this way, would instantly sweep across the entire African continent. It is truly up to the people themselves to take on their responsibilities in every single place. And I say this to demand certain things from their leaders. There are leaders who are compromised. They call us and often tell us, you're on the right track, but we can't do as you do. Because, well, it's difficult. Some have their wealth in Europe, over there, in banks and so on. If they try anything, everything gets blocked, ill-gotten gains. I'm telling some people, have the courage to go out and tell your citizens, all right, listen, we certainly behaved badly, we stole, I have billions in Swiss banks or whatever it may be. But from now on, I accept to work for you, forgive me, and we'll start on a completely new basis. There are others who have been compromised by the same kind of affairs, you know, like Epstein or whatever. They travel to Europe often, we put them up in hotels, we film them in very compromising situations, and we hold them with that. You do this, or else we'll release it, a huge scandal against you. Have the courage to tell your people, well, I messed up, but forgive me, everyone messes up. And then we start fresh. Failing that, young people should wake up and demand, what we are doing here is not extraordinary, but they too can demand this from their leaders. Burkina Faso isn't the richest country, but what we're achieving, if you consider the road infrastructure, which country in Africa, especially in West Africa, has good road infrastructure, a sufficiently dense network? There isn't one. We always need to build our roads, for example, which is fundamental. When people go to Europe, all the cities, all the streets are paved. We're happy, we walk around, we take selfies in the streets of Europe, the US, all sorts of places. We can't do that here.
Well, everyone sees that we're getting a lot of machines to do it ourselves.
And people know that in the near future, we'll make a big leap. Because if we just stay in the markets, waiting for businesses to come, we can't. So we invest in our equipment, we trust our youth, and we put them to work. But all countries can do it, why don't they? So young people must find a way to approach first very peacefully their leaders and tell them this is what we want. We must work with concrete solutions and ensure they are implemented. If they fail to do so, we need to find a way to put pressure on them. Now, if the leader is unable to do it, if he's constrained by his surroundings, he should have the courage to say so and then resign. Otherwise, I can't... How can I put it, by some kind of magic to make things change? Young people are impatient, it's true. When I look at Burkina, everyone wants, for example, when I consider the brigades we are forming to build roads. We started with Ouagadougou and Bobo Dioulasso, then Koudougou, then Kodogo, Kaya. But the others need to be patient. It's coming, everyone will have their own brigade, everyone will have their own routes. But I can't just do it like that, with a snap of my fingers. So first there's patience, then there's the method. Many people want to see everything all at once, in one go. It's impossible. We've come a very long way. And I like to tell people, our countries are still in the 1800s. We must accept that.
To give ourselves another vision and kickstart the process with a little patience. So for the regional youth, it's about finding the right approach, in any case, to connect with the leaders, to guide them to do what they desire. And there are many things. What we do when we nationalize certain industrial units and so on, people don't understand, but it also requires courage. Even in Burkina, some didn't know the industrial units that existed, and some didn't know they weren't Burkinas. It's when we started to regain some control that even intellectuals realize, this unity wasn't Burkina's, yet it doesn't belong to us, and it's up to the youth to demand that the government take back its responsibilities. We grow cotton, it's others who set the cotton price. Because even our companies that manage cotton and everything did not belong to us. And today, we are in the process of constructing large industrial units, so that if we take the raw cotton just as it is, all the way through to the final product is all done by us. Everyone can do it. So no one will be able to dictate the price of cotton to us because we are transforming it. Instead of selling raw cotton, we will be selling the yarn, if you prefer, or we will be selling the finished fabrics, if you prefer.
Cotton is used in medical care everywhere, like compressors. We always pay for foreign products, but it's our cotton.
Africa can do it. There are those who are the leading cocoa producers, but they don't set the cocoa prices.
Africa must awaken, and Africa must seek knowledge and truly wake up. And seeking knowledge means understanding much about our lives, our identity, and shedding ignorance. And it is only at this cost that we will reclaim our true selves and prosper. And now, for people to see us as human beings as well. Otherwise, for the moment, I regret to say this, there are African states, but their way of doing things and everything else, we cannot be respected. That's just not possible. So this is what I have to say to the youth. Whether Burkinabe or African, we really need to wake up. It is possible. It is possible. Let's believe in ourselves. It is possible. Everyone has a brain. Everyone can achieve more than what you're doing. You, for example, you're a journalist. If you really apply your mind, you could be a mechanical engineer perhaps, or an electrical one. I'm convinced of one thing. God gave everyone the ability, and they can't be stuck on just one thing. We can do many things, and that's what I try to encourage among young people. I meet a lot of young people, and I encourage them to develop a lot of things. It's possible.
We've been put to sleep. Just look at social media. That's what they've been feeding us. We're still asleep. Let's wake up now.
Yes, Mr. President, Africa must wake up. As you just said, Burkina Faso might be on its way, precisely 1 year after the proclamation of the Popular Progressive Revolution. What message do you have for this youth we just spoke of, and for the entire Burkinabe people?
So I'll come back to a few points. Africans must stop deluding themselves. Democracy, as we've been told, does not bring development.
It's false.
Every nation has gone through a revolution before achieving democracy. And as I often tell people, if we consider ourselves to be in the 1800s relative to developed countries, then a true revolution is absolutely necessary. A revolution in our mindset, in our behavior, that is our very way of thinking, an industrial revolution, a revolution across all sectors to try to create and truly become ourselves, to make up for this delay. Otherwise, this democracy we're so flattered with, you see many of our intellectuals who went to school, democracy, democracy, they don't even know what it is. The very same people shouting that at that very moment, if you catch them, you tell them, okay, democracy, we kill children. Democracy, we drop bombs, we kill women, we destroy hospitals, we kill civilian populations. That's democracy. They'll act as if they don't see it. They are just keeping their eyes shut. Young Africans must understand that this is a false. This notion of democracy, it is false. It's just a stick that people hold, and they use it against Africans and certain peoples. That's all. So we must forget the very notion of democracy. We must embrace the revolutionary spirit, revolutionize our lives, and the revolutionary spirit that demands many sacrifices. Because, as I said, people's mindsets have been completely destroyed. Look, in some countries in Africa, young people can't even sit down and seriously discuss the future of their own country. All we seem to know how to do, are these buzz stories on social media. That's what captures everyone's interest. All these trivialities. We absolutely must move past this. I often say, when I'm out, young people need to return to science. We cannot continue to have a generation whose sole focus is performing comedy, engaging in frivolous activities on social media, and just dancing.
Just doing things randomly. I don't know what to do. It's not going to lead us anywhere.
And when you look at these so-called influencers or what have you, those who make videos, who do all these silly things, I mean, he's just standing there, or a girl, she's just dancing. That's what people watch. It gets millions of views, but a young person who's sitting there showing how a gear can be made, or explaining mechanics, or how a medical device, a tool is used, they're not listened to, they don't get any attention, you won't find anything there. We don't even look at those pages.
Or a young person who raises awareness, who makes videos to awaken minds, very little followed.
But Africa cannot get out of this situation like this. I'm sorry. If we continue like this, we will remain slaves forever. These are truths. Others will even say that the head of state shouldn't say such things, that it's crude, these kinds of remarks. Those same intellectuals, ask them, where did they go to school to become a head of state? To tell us what the head of state should do, or what the state should do, what the state should not do. Let's believe in ourselves, and we must also, in certain spheres, give young people a voice. When I say give them a voice, what is it? You know, we have a very bad habit in Africa. When you want to give a young person a job, experience, he doesn't have the experience. He doesn't have the experience. We don't trust young people, but where will he get the experience? In Europe, there are 19-year-olds, young people creating things, and they're given the opportunity to do so. But here, experience. Last time I was joking, I told the minister, because in our procurement processes here, I had the similar market requirement removed, meaning it's market experience. And if you don't give them the chance to do the first market, how will they do it? I had that removed. I had many conditions removed. There was a minister who said, you have to be careful. What is it? What? He said, it's our responsibility to do everything to make sure that young man is upright and does what he's supposed to do. But if you're talking about experience, did you yourself have ministerial experience before I appointed you minister? And people laughed. But let's put an end to this. We should also place our trust in young people and give them the opportunity, the chance to express themselves. And that is truly important. If we wake up and have confidence in ourselves and are given the space, I truly believe that Africa can pull through. Otherwise, we shouldn't flatter ourselves. Everything we do, in fact, will create our own little Eldorados, meaning a few countries will develop, but the vast majority will go nowhere. We'll just keep dying in the ocean. And that's it. Because Burkina Faso alone, I will see, if I consider Burkina's situation, if only we start to develop ourselves, why do we preach to everyone else? We cannot accommodate the entire African population who are looking for work. That's impossible. But if we're not together, how? So everyone has an interest in waking up. And I believe that a better future is possible. Africa has all the potential. Everything. There's no explanation why there's so much oil in Niger, Mali, or elsewhere, and why we don't develop quickly like those Gulf countries that also have oil or similar resources. There's no explanation.
There's no explanation why we have gold here and certain products, and we can't develop like some countries in Europe that have nothing but these resources. There's no explanation. It's governance.
And young people have their say without any manipulation, with respect and the right means. They must be allowed to do it. If not, a revolution is necessary. That is absolutely clear.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Therefore, we have now reached the conclusion of this interview. The first to bring together here at Cuba Palace, Burkinabe, African and Western media. So at Cuba Palace, as I was saying, thank you again for this openness to the press and for all the answers provided to my colleagues' concerns. Dear colleagues, thank you also for your interest. Dear viewers, we sincerely thank you for having followed this entire interview with the head of state, Captain Ibrahim Traore. Please stay tuned for more programs on Burkina Television.